Welcome to Stayed in 4. I'm your host, Terrence. Today joining me, we have Charnetta Williams, Chanel Fladger, Brittany Crutchfield, and Daniel Smith. Welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in, guys.
Watching.
We appreciate you.
Okay, so today's topic is a little serious. Asian Americans are suffering a rising tide of hate and violence in this country. What's going on? How did this all start? Chanel?
Okay, in my opinion, all this started with Trump and media. Okay, what was Trump calling this virus? The China flu, the flu from Wuhan, China. People calling it Kung flu. So, Kung flu, right? The Kung flu. So, all those ideologies is directed towards the Asian community. And that's what really stemmed it. And a lot of people have suffered so many losses from Corona. People lost their loved ones. So, it's just like, really, I lost my mom. I lost my cousins. Everybody's complaining about that. And it's like, everybody wants to point a finger at somebody. And that's what it was. So the media didn't help it. Trump ain't making it any easier. And just the other day, I want to say the other day, but in July of 2020 in Brooklyn, there was a 78-year-old Vietnamese woman minding her business. Now, if everybody's familiar with New York, you know, Canal Street is like, you know, connects from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and it's nothing but, you know, it's pretty much nothing but, it's like Chinatown pretty much. Yo, some dude lit up a woman on fire, took a lighter and lit up her back while she was walking. And I'm like, this is crazy. And all this happened in July of 2020, 89-year-old woman. Come on, you can't tell me that that's not the media doing that and that's not Trump's propaganda.
Right.
Come on.
Daniel, what's your thoughts on everything that's going on? Where did this all start?
I mean, I have to agree. It all came from that propaganda that Trump was pushing about this being the China virus. And I think, too, it's kind of two-part because it also stems from the recent news of, you know, how the Chinese have been treating African Americans over there as well. So within their country, so they've been blocking us from a lot of different areas and having us to move out of areas. So it's just been a lot of attention on the Asian community altogether. So I think that's just stemmed from. But the virus definitely peaked it because a lot of people are angry about they feel like China started it and sent it over to America.
So I would like to go back to that one little piece of what you said about how they've been treating African Americans. So can you elaborate on that?
So it's been some areas in China where they've actually been forcing African Americans to move out of their homes, be evicted from their houses. And then there was like last week where McDonald's would not even serve African Americans in China. So they were coming into that McDonald's and they weren't serving them. So it's definitely been an issue of, you know, kind of where they've been racist to us over there in their country. So now, you know, now that it's coming over here in the U.S., I mean, once we get into it, I'm gonna really say, but yeah, right now, I think that's where it really stems from is just, you know, how things have been going with the virus. And then the fact that, you know, they've been dishing out some hate. So it's almost kind of like, hey, people are saying, oh, now
very touchy. I'm glad that you actually said that opposed to myself, because if I say that, then everybody's going to jump on me. So I'm glad that you said that, Daniel. Netta, what's your thoughts on everything?
No.
Netta?
I don't know where the heck it's coming from. It's interesting that women are primarily targeted. Like, what's that about? So I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
It don't make any sense.
Right. Yeah. So we all know about the mass killing, I guess, where 6 Asian women were murdered. It was a total of 8 out in Georgia, but it was 6 Asian women where a guy walked into 3 different spas and just lit it up and murdered them. Brittany, what's your thoughts of everything that's happening?
I completely agree with everybody. This is definitely Trump's rhetoric that, you know, pushed and really just led to this boiling point. We all have seen back in January how far his people, his mob, his thugs will go in his name.
Okay.
It surprises me, but it doesn't surprise me that they would do something like this and they will target and attack, you know, this entire group of this ethnic group based upon things that he's said, lies that he's fed them. They meet in secret huddles and come up with all these different allegations, come up with all these different plans to do all these, I guess you would call it domestic terrorists against us. So this is just another one of those things where I feel like his rhetoric over time has pushed to attack, and it led to this point. You know, everything that so many people lost their jobs, lost their family members, lifestyles were just inconvenienced. Think about how mad people got over it just wearing face masks, right? How much of it?
I'm telling you, yeah.
So his people are sick in the head, right? They really do have some mental issues, and they look for this leader to tell them and feed them this hate. And so I just feel like he really is responsible for a lot of this. He is.
Right. So to be honest with you, at first, when we were talking about developing shows and things like that, I was kind of iffy about this topic, right? I didn't know if I even wanted to touch on it. And I said, well, you know what, Terrence, like you got to step out of the frame, don't be like the others where like, okay, it's not affecting me. Let me not cover it. Where we have,
thank you.
5, you know what I mean? I say, hey, this is our platform. We have some people on here. We got 5 Black African-American voices. Let's use it and let's cover it, even though it's not affecting the community directly. And I think that's what maybe some Caucasians need to do when things are happening to African-Americans, etc. Don't just sit back and watch everything going down. Step out of your frame. Step out of your frame to help. You know what I mean?
Well said.
Just step out of your frame.
That's a fact, because to be honest, in New York, it was like that too.
Say that again now?
Even in New York, the Asians, they was mad at New York, at New Yorkers for not buying Chinese food, because at the time when the corona came out, nobody was eating Chinese food. Nobody was getting nothing from the Chinese business. So they was upset. They was upset with the Black community. But then you got to really know your history and understand how the Asians even came to this country in the beginning. These people came to this country wanting to thrive off how they was already living when they was in China. Remember, China was a farming land. It wasn't cities and all that there. And what they did, they had their peoples coming to this country, they're building, and look at where they're at now. So a lot of them came to this country. It wasn't like they could just own any other business. They was forced to have businesses in low-income areas, predominantly where Black people reside at. And I feel like there was a lot of racial tensions amongst Blacks and Chinese, because from time to time, as Black people live in this country, we can't go to Africa and be like, hey, I'm going to make money in America and bring it to Africa. We don't have, all we have is the Black people in this country. Africans can come to America and they can build business in America and send money back to their country and take care of their people. The Chinese do it. Every other race is doing it except for us. We're the ones that's really stuck.
And to be honest with you guys,
look at all that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know about you guys, but honestly, I had no idea that Asian Americans experience a recurring theme of racism just in America.
Right.
I had no idea about that. Did you
guys?
I know.
Not
we don't think that.
Standpoint, I didn't know.
Yeah. When Black Lives Matter and all this other stuff was stirring up, the Chinese, restaurants and those places that exist are primarily in those marginalized communities, and y'all didn't stand up at that point in time.
Y'all not supporting
the marginalized communities, but now we see some hate and some attacks going, and now we all want to rise up and focus.
Still standing by their side,
and then we still not even address the Black Lives Matter issue that exists in the country. So how are we just? It's almost like we put a Band-Aid on that to say, hey, let's address this Asian hate that's been going on. No, actually, we just need to address white supremacy. That's really
we
wouldn't have Asian hate, Black hate, or anything. We would just.
That's what I'm saying. But now they see it though.
Yeah, but the commonality is white supremacy. That's the commonality. That's what we need to focus.
I feel like what's happening now with all of these recent attacks is the narrative is being put out that is mostly done by Black people because of issues that we've had in the past with, all in LA back in the, late 80s and early
1992, right. Yeah.
So the narrative that's being put out with all of this, that, it's mostly Black people that doing that, when in fact, that's not the case. It's not Black people that's mostly doing that. In fact, according to FBI reports, 53% of the racial and the hate crimes against Asian Americans that were reported were against white people, and only 23% were Black. So that right there says that, hey, we're not the one that's attacking you guys.
The sheriff's press conference said it all. If you can come out and as a white person shoot and kill 8 people and say that you was having a bad day, that right there told me everything.
Crazy. That says enough.
Thank you.
It says enough.
And why do you think it's like that? How do they just get away with something like that?
Bro, come on, man. This country's built off of that.
It's because arresting them, the people that's arresting them, that's prosecuting them, that's dealing with them, looks like them. So they're able to empathize with them. They're able to relate to them, as opposed to when they do not look like me and look like us.
Right.
There's a break sometimes. And so when the person that's doing all these crimes look like my son, I'm able to empathize a little bit more. And then I look at his mom and I think of me, and she looks like me. I'm able to put myself in those shoes a little bit easier, a little bit more. And so I feel like that's why a lot of times some of these things, because a lot of these things are young white men when these
right. But they don't be putting them on blast like that, because the minute a black person does something, we always on the news. Even in Asia, Asia does the same thing. Their media, anytime a black person does something they're the first ones on the news. And that's the problem.
They go back and find the bad pictures
of the predominantly supremacist society. It's been like that since this country has been built. It's been divided. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, look at the police force. The police force was never designed to serve and protect. They were designed to go and find blacks that had escaped from slavery. So how do you clean up a system like that after all those years anyway? You trying to tell me, oh, now we serve and protect. Serve and protect, too. The same people you were chasing after all these years.
Especially when your money is coming from us. We're paying for your service.
Yeah.
So why we keep giving them so much power to kill our people and all that? Come on, everybody. We got to start waking up.
I actually invited 3 Asian people to join us on this conversation, and they all declined. Right? They're not coming on. It's no surprise. It's no surprise. They're not coming. But what'd you say? What'd you say, bro?
I'm about to say it's gonna get good.
Yeah, it's gonna get good. I mean, I invited them, but they all declined. They said it's a touchy subject, those type of things like that. And I said, fine. But one of them, she did tell me that her mother told her when she was younger, don't go towards the blacks, go towards the whites. You know, bait white. Go after the white. And I wonder what her mother is saying right now to her.
Absolutely.
Right. Westernized. But they did that.
It ain't changed. Still saying
it ain't changed, but it's the westernized, the Eurocentric, European. I mean, look at everything that they got going on. My son loves Naruto. If anybody's big on anime, Naruto is a white boy with blue eyes and blonde hair. Like, come on, they make everything so like westernized, and it's so sad. Like, there's nothing wrong with embracing your culture. There's nothing wrong with it. The younger generation of the Chinese people, they're different. They're not like their parents. Their parents was built like that because when they came into this country, they had no choice. Well, I don't want to be like the black people, so let me be better than them. That's really what it came down to. And now that they're suffering and going through these things, it's like, yo, this is what black people have been complaining about for years.
Now,
years. And now you're getting a taste of it. Not that I want it.
Right. So a friend, recently asked me how I felt about everything. And this is before I had to educate myself. I didn't really know anything that was going on, to be honest with you guys. And I told her, I said, you know what? And hey, hopefully this don't come out down the line. But I was just like, yo, for the longest time, Asian people have been treating blacks a certain type of way. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to sit here and condone any type of violence or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But to be inside this frame, to be inside the frame that Daniel's in, and to be a black man in America, the way they treat us. Like, I mean, I had some Asian women kind of like run in the opposite direction. If you want to sit there and talk about Caucasian women being racist, hey, you got another thing coming, because some Asian people are probably equally or more racist than a white person. And I always say that. I always say that across the frame. So I'm not condoning any type of violence, and I'm not supporting what's happening to them, because violence is completely wrong. But there's a lot of racist Asian people out there.
Come on, speak on it, bro. Because
I talked to an Asian girl once when I was in Colorado, and she would have to walk up the road to meet me, and I thought it was weird. But then I realized once I finally did go to her house, her parents looked at me like, "Who's this black man?"
Yeah,
like,
that's sad. That's so sad.
And I was like, "Why are you walking up the road to meet me?" And she was like, "Well, my brothers and this." I was like, "Oh, so then it all made sense once I met them."
If you look at most of the relationships, if it comes to like interracial, when it comes to the dating aspect, you don't really see them with too many blacks.
But you will see the interracial with them with whites.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, hands down. Hands down.
Accepted, and it's welcome, and it's accepted.
Right. Now, what can we do in our own community to kind of like help them in any type of way? How can we change the narrative or make a difference? Britt? If anything.
Again, it kind of goes back to speaking the truth, when it comes down to what these crimes are and who's committing these crimes. Let's speak and say what it is, and let's call them what they are. They're hate crimes, right? Let's give them a label. A lot of times the media does not want to call it that, and a lot of times they're not prosecuted as hate crimes. They'll be prosecuted as assaults, things like that.
Mental disorder, right?
Yeah, they'll never really give that label, and I feel like until we get comfortable calling it what it is from our standpoint all the way to the legislative standpoint, it's almost like we're putting a mask on it, right? We're not really dealing with what the situation is. And so I feel like there for sure is just let's call it what it is. Let's change the narrative that's with all these attacks, that it's not Black people doing these attacks. Well, let me say this. Right. It's not mostly Black people, because there has been a couple attacks where there were Black people involved, but majority of them is not Black people. So let's not keep that narrative going, because then it's going to just create this tension that's already there, right? We already know that tension is there between the two. And so let's try we can to diminish that, because believe it or not, we need each other, right? Who shops at their stores, who eats mostly, you know what I mean, like who shops at their beauty supply stores, who
I'm going to get some Chinese food right after this.
Who gets China, right? And so we need each other. Both of our communities need each other. And so why are we fighting? Let's
white rice
with duck sauce.
Right. You already
the duck sauce on the side. Yeah.
You already, and they need our dollars. They need our dollars. We keep their community afloat. And so that needs to be appreciated. That needs to be understood. And we need to do what we can to change the narrative and say what the truth is and deal with the truth. It's white supremacy.
Right. And to add some more into that, I wonder if if there's tension between whites and Asians now. Like, I know, like, there's some type of tension between Black and Asian, or like white and Black. But what about?
I still feel like it won't be to the level that it is with us.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah. White is always right, and in the eyes.
Like there might be a type of white person that they may not deal with, but white people, they will not generalize white people in general the same way they
to be a problem. To be a problem.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Chanel, how do you feel like we can make a difference?
Well, I'll say this. A lot of this that we're talking with the Asians comes from the older generations, and they instilled that brainwashing mentality into their children. Many Asians that I know now don't believe in those eccentric values. They don't believe in that. They're marching. When George Floyd died, they was right there holding signs like, Black Lives Matter. So that's a start. And for Asians to have establishments in this country, you'll support. Like I said, I'm just saying New York, for instance, the Chinese, as much as we go get the chicken and broccoli with the pork pie rice or the egg roll or the boneless rib tips with duck sauce, like, support our brands too. Come in our stores. Like, we need to all start coming together. We're too divided. This is why this is continuing years after years after years after years. Even in my son's time, it's still going to be divided. So how do we change the narrative? Let's support one another. Listen, don't be afraid to shop at a Black store. It's okay. We're open to everybody. Black people always saving everybody. All we're asking is that everybody support one another. That's it.
Support one another.
Start by supporting and showing love. That's it.
There you go. Charnetta?
Yeah, just
my girl go in. She don't stop.
No,
she's passionate about it.
Go ahead,
stop it.
I'm saying.
Yes. But no, I think just having honest conversations, like Nell was saying, it is the younger generations are more open. And I know, like, I have an Asian friend where it's hard for her to speak to her mom, but like, oh, Ma, it's not like this anymore. It's because it's like talking about being disrespectful type of thing. But I mean, just, I guess, them continuing to have conversations with their family members and just everybody, man, just keep an open mind. Like, we're all going through minorities. We're all going through so much with the white supremacy. And that is the main thing. If I can't say anything else, like, everybody has to come and together to stand against white supremacy. White people, Black people, Asian people, Latino people, everybody. Because when we start to say, no, we're not taking that, and outcast them, then they will change, because then they won't feel, so safe doing this. Like, Trump being in power for 4 years empowered them to then just explode and take off and feel, safe and open to just carry on all this rhetoric, and it's enough.
Before I go to Daniel, I do have a question, Netta. So do you think that we will ever bring some type of end to that type of white supremacy at all? Like, being realistic, is it something that can be stopped?
it takes everybody. I think if everybody, how with the LGBTQ community, right? When everybody was like, no, you can't say that. You can't do this. Everybody came together and was like, no. It started, people was getting in trouble. They was getting fired. They was getting blackballed. All this against, we got to put that type of energy behind stopping white supremacy to get it done. They got to answer. They got to have some repercussions to what they're doing. And they will think twice about doing it.
Gotcha.
Charnetta for president, 2024.
Daniel?
I don't think we'll ever see the end of it in our lifetime, though.
Okay. Brett?
I
No. I mean, no, elaborate more, Brett. Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, we'll see the end of it in our lifetime because of Generation Z is the most diverse generation to ever exist. So as we become old, that Generation Z is the one that's going to step into that power and really do it. They're the most diverse, the most interracial, most diverse, generation that we've had. So I think we'll eventually see it die out, but we'll be old and we'll still be on our rocking chairs on the front porch saying, hey, I remember y'all don't know what it's like to deal with this and to deal with that, because, they are very diverse in the way that they're migrating. But in order for us to get past it, it's like everybody said, we got to come together. Like now we've realized that we all got to be allies against white supremacy. That's the issue.
Right.
We would recognize that and call it what it is. I didn't have a bad day and shoot up 8 people. That's not having a bad day. So if you get on the news, you can't say, "Oh, this kid had a bad day." No,
he also
own it, right?
And that guy also said that he had a sex addiction as well. By the way, let me add that.
Yeah, and he got moved from his job.
Come on, what's that got to do with you killing?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you can't sit here and say, "Oh, well, I was having a bad day." Okay, I have a bad day all the time. Just being black in America, I wake up and have a bad day. So you can't say, I'm not going to go kill 8 people and then, have a bad day in the day. So we got to start by first calling it what it is. And when they do something, can't put a picture of them at church with grandma. They got to get the same the same picture from what they hang out with as we get when we do something good. They still go and find a bad picture to try to paint us as something that we aren't. So
what about you, T?
And Daniel, you mentioned that rocking chair. I'll be in my rocking chair with that fortune cookie and those numbers. I'll tell you that. But I really believe it's all about just like I mentioned earlier. It's all about just stepping out of the frame and out of your world to see what the hell is going on around you. And I think if more people can do that, then they can kind of like help different areas that don't really are impacting or affecting their own community. So like I said, for us, I like the idea that we're reaching out to have this conversation to keep the narrative going. And like everybody been saying, stop Asian hate. That's really it. That's the hashtag, right?
Right.
So send it. Keep it going. Stop Asian hate. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm Terrence Edwards, Chanel Fladger, Charnetta Williams, Brittany Crutchfield, and Daniel Smith. Stop the Asian hate.